The war zone of the Karis Expanse had been burning for 3 standard cycles. A region once known for trade corridors and drifting light now torn apart by plasma storms and wreckage fields. Armadas from a dozen species clashed daily, their doctrines built on elegance, honor, or overwhelming numbers. None of them were prepared for the warning that arrived without ceremony. It came through every channel at once: military, civilian, encrypted. An ancient emergency bans long thought obsolete. Warning: a human war vessel has entered the war zone. At first the message was dismissed as a malfunction, or perhaps a psychological attack meant to fracture morale. Humans were a distant species, technically capable but politically fragmented, rarely committing to interstellar wars beyond their borders. Their ships were rumored to be ugly, over-armored, inefficient by galactic standards. Rumors were not threats, or so the commanders believed. Then, the sensors began to scream. Gravity wells twisted unnaturally, as if a small star was being dragged sideways through real space. Hyperspace bled into normal space in violent ripples, shredding unmanned probes and distorting time readings. Veteran officers felt something ancient stir in their instincts, a recognition of danger beyond doctrine. The vessel emerged without grace, no ceremonial lights, no formation escorts, no herald beacons, just mass, impossible mass. Layered in dense alloys and radiation scars, its hull was dark, not polished, not reflective, but matte like a weapon that did not need to be seen. Heat vents glowed a dull red, restrained, controlled, as though the ship was holding its breath. The automated identification struggled before finally locking in. Classification: human war vessel. Subclass unknown. Armament unknown. Intent unstated. Silence spread across the war zone. Fleets that had been firing moments earlier found their targeting solutions drifting. Missiles lost lock, as if the universe itself hesitated. Commanders stared at displays that refused to categorize what they were seeing. The human ship did not maneuver aggressively. It simply advanced, slow and deliberate. Straight through the center of the conflict, wreckage drifted aside as if repelled, shields flaring briefly and then dimming again. A path was being carved without a single shot fired. Then came the second message, shorter, colder, and far more terrifying. This is a humanitarian corridor. Stand down or be removed. No threat was stated. No weapons charged visibly, yet every species present understood something fundamental. This was not diplomacy. This was a statement of fact. Admiral Vethrix of the Coalition fleet was the first to respond. Not out of courage but necessity. If the humans intended to interfere, clarity was required before panic spread. A tight beam transmission was sent, coded in neutral protocols, requesting identification and intent. The reply came instantly, as if the human ship had been waiting. Voice only, no visual, calm, steady, unmistakably organic. This is the UNV Resolute. We are executing civilian extraction. Any hostile action within this corridor will be answered. Answered was an interesting choice of words. Not punished, not destroyed, simply answered. Vethrix felt his mandibles tighten before further communication could occur. A renegade cruiser from the Vaughn Collective made a fatal error, believing the human ship to be a bluff. It fired a probing salvo. Low-yield plasma meant to test shield response. The bolts crossed the void in silence. They never reached the Resolute. Space itself folded briefly. Not enough to tear, but enough to redirect. The plasma vanished, reappearing a heartbeat later behind the Vaughn cruiser. Its shields failed instantly, overloaded by its own fire. The human ship did not fire a visible weapon. There was no recoil, no flash, only cause and effect rearranged. The Vaughn cruiser broke apart in seconds, not explosively, but surgically. Systems shutting down as structure failed. Escape pods launched too late. The message was unmistakable. The Resolute continued forward, shuttles deployed from its flanks, armored, efficient, moving with practiced coordination. They ignored battle lines, ignored alliances, heading straight for drifting civilian habitats and crippled transports. Coalition commanders scrambled to adjust, issuing stand-down orders, pulling ships back from the newly declared corridor. Some protested, others complied in stunned silence. No one challenged again. Sensors began picking up something else. The human vessel was not alone. Deep within its shadow, dozens of smaller signatures appeared and vanished. Drones or escort craft operating beyond conventional detection. The ship was not just a war vessel. It was an ecosystem of conflict response. Admiral Vethrix realized with a chill that humanity had not come to fight the war. They had come to end it. As the corridor stabilized. Analysts across the war zone focused every available sensor on the Resolute. What they found unsettled even the most hardened tacticians. The ship was not designed for speed, nor elegance. It was built for endurance, layer upon layer of redundant systems, power routed through hardened conduits, life support segmented into isolated ecosystems. The ship could lose half its mass and continue functioning. Its weapons were not specialized. Instead, they were modular, adaptable, capable of being reconfigured mid-engagement, kinetic cannons capable of relativistic strikes, energy arrays tuned to frequencies that bypassed conventional shielding, gravitational, projectors that manipulated trajectories, rather than destroying targets directly. But the most disturbing aspect was its doctrine. The ship reacted before threats fully manifested. Predictive models so advanced they bordered on precognition. Human AI worked in partnership with human intuition, each compensating for the other's weaknesses. Captured data revealed something else. The Resolute had been active far longer than any expected. Its hull bore marks from battles unrecorded in galactic history. Wars fought in silence, against enemies that left no survivors to tell the tale. A junior analyst voiced the unthinkable. What if this is not a frontline vessel? What if this is what they send when things have already gone wrong? As civilian extractions continued, opposing fleets withdrew. Not out of mercy, but calculation. Engaging now meant facing a ship that did not need to win, only to endure. The war zone quieted, debris fields drifting in uneasy calm. The Resolute remained, watching, waiting, a sentinel, rather than a conqueror. Asterisk. When the last civilian shuttle cleared the corridor, the human ship broadcast once more, this time on open channels, translated automatically into every known language. This conflict has exceeded acceptable casualty thresholds. You will disengage and withdraw from the Chaos Expanse. This region is under human observation. No declarations of ownership were made, no claims of sovereignty, just observation. Several factions protested, citing treaties and ancient rights. The human response was brief. We have reviewed your treaties. They do not justify continued loss of life. And then, quietly, the Resolute demonstrated its final capability. A distant asteroid, marked on no chart, was compressed inward, gravity folding it into a dense sphere before releasing it harmlessly. A display of force precise enough to terrify without killing. The message was clear. Humanity did not need to destroy fleets to enforce peace. They could simply remove the battlefield itself. Asterisk. Within a single cycle, the war was over. Fleets withdrew. Borders stabilized. Negotiations resumed under watchful sensors. The Chaos Expanse became a neutral zone, monitored but untouched. The Resolute eventually departed, slipping back into hyperspace without ceremony. No victory parades followed, no monuments were raised, yet the warning echoed across the galaxy, retold in academies and war rooms alike. Warning: a human war vessel has entered the war zone. It was no longer a threat, it was a promise. Humanity would arrive not as conquerors, but as the final argument, and no one who witnessed it ever doubted what that meant.